If you have any good ideas for improving the content, I'd love to read them in the comments. Love. What villain was terrifying because they were right? The Reapers from Mass Effect, in the original BioWare ending before EA changed it. All they were trying to do was stop advanced races from using so much dark matter that they wiped out all life in the galaxy before other races were allowed to come along. If it wasn't for them, humanity wouldn't just not exist, but every species in the entire cycle, every species in every cycle, everyone would have died as the stars went out, this horrific fast heat death event, over the course of a few thousand years. Except a small group of Leviathans, in the early days of the universe, realized what was going to happen, and sacrificed their entire civilization to save all future life in the galaxy. And when Shepard destroys their ships in the third one, every one of those ships is a museum, a living record of every previous civilization, and they're destroying the only thing that was able to be left from them. To fight the Reapers is to fight against everyone who has ever lived and everyone who ever will live. The Reapers don't just have a point, they've saved more lives than we can even fathom. Their only flaw is that they were never able to find a solution that was better than wiping out civilization every few thousand years and preserving whatever they could find. This is hands down the best answer I've seen by far. Most people seem to have misunderstood the original question. Thank you for nailing it on the head. The sharks from Sharknado. Can you imagine you're just swimming around, minding your own business, then all of a sudden a tornado picks you up out of nowhere, drops you on land, and now you have to deal with Tara Reid? Yeah, I would start biting people too. Magneto is my favorite villain of all time. Every time his motives are brought to light I get that yeah, I kinda get it moment. One of the only good bits out of that god-awful excuse for a Phoenix movie, X3, was just Magneto giving side-eye to the young mutants asking for his tattoos. He just whips out the concentration camp number and stone cold no one is ever marking me again. Like that was a bad movie, but at least they got that attitude right. None of you said the most terrifying one. Joe from the Powerpuff Girls. He wanted to bring free energy and advanced technology to the people. And in one episode he actually did. He made the world an amazing place. And then the Powerpuff Girls ruined it all. I just read his backstory, pretty sad. The professor accidentally created him by spilling chemical X on him. He was a lab assistant at the time, but then after the Powerpuff Girls were created, the professor eventually neglected Mojo and left him to live out on the streets. I never even realized he had a backstory. That's really sad actually. There's a whole episode about it. The professor invites Mojo back into their life and is tricked by Mojo into giving him powers like the Powerpuff Girls. Then he turns on them and tries to take over the town. Scar. He only wanted to be king because he was a second male lion in the pride. Which means he is automatically not getting much food and also beaten into submission regularly if he wants to stay in the pride. Aside from that he isn't allowed to mate at all, only the king gets that. Can we really blame him? Also, he tried to eat Zazu and got in trouble. He says it's natural. Then Zazu says let's make him into a rug. Then in freaking Hercules he was a rug. Red Queen Resident Evil, I have locked down this facility to prevent a world-ending virus. Please could you good guys pay attention and not blow holes in the doors. Except she didn't come out and say it from the beginning. I always hate it when characters say things like you gotta trust me or now's not the time since that's the only way for plot to move forward. To quote Ryan George, so the movie can happen. Mr. Wilson from Dennis the Menace. The live-action movie has one of those random scenes you see as a kid that sticks with you your whole life. Mr. Wilson has been cultivating this flower that takes like 40 years to bloom and then dies in 10 seconds. At the moment it's going to bloom, Dennis causes a ruckus and Mr. Wilson misses the blooming he's been working his whole adult life for. Looking back, that's like one of the most disturbing moments I've seen on film, partly because it gets more relatable as I get older. I mean, damn, 40 years. As soon as you mentioned the live-action version, that's the scene that came to mind. I think it was so memorable because all the other shenanigans that happened, he yelled at Dennis, but this time he didn't. I had to rewatch the scene for the quote but, you took something from me that I can never get back. Something that means more to me than you ever will. I don't want to see you. I don't want to know you. Get out of my way. That's real. Those are the words of a heartbroken man. Stevie from Wizards of Waverly Place. Her entire goal was to stop families from giving up their magic to just one person in the family. Like, we're really supposed to be rooting against her? It just seemed super out of character for Alex to go against that plan. Edit, thanks for all the upvotes. I got to experience seeing something I put on Reddit appear on my FYP on TikTok for the first time. I was thinking exactly this. Why give up your powers when everyone can have them? Only one member of the family having wizard powers seems unsustainable for the wizarding world. I get it that it was not very nice of her to trap her brother, but she was 100% right. I really thought Alex would do it. I cannot understand how or why did Alex double-cross her. I was pretty young when the show was running, but I always confused by this. The only thing I can think of now is that when the family wizard is chosen, they become a full wizard. Before that, wizards only have part of their powers, though, that doesn't seem to affect the characters really? Maybe the writers were thinking that with each generation, an individual's powers would get less and less, and eventually diminish into nothingness. But if this was the case, that was not explained at all. See also, Magneto, the Holocaust survivor, not wanting his species genocide. His Smen plan was quite reasonable. Convert the world elite into mutants, thus guaranteeing they treat mutant fairly. Ken from the B-movie. I too would go absolutely berserk if a talking bee stole my girlfriend and gaslit me into thinking I was crazy. Plus, dude was allergic, OFC he wouldn't want to be around. Every time I hear the plot of this movie, I think it can't possibly be real. It gets crazier as you go on. Okay, so it's a movie about talking bees who have their own little society. Okay, that's cute. And then the main bee finds a human to become friends with, still tracks. Then they start an interspecies romance even though she's in a relationship with another human. What? And then they work together to sue the human race over honey theft? And they win? And then it turns into an environmental apocalypse? What? Also, the main bee appears to be male, but all worker bees are female. Male bees are essentially useless until it's time to mate with the queen to start a new hive. Then they die. Are you saying that the main bee's father shouldn't be alive at all? Count Dooku just straight up told Obi-Wan that the Sith control the Senate. I still love the fact that Dooku tells him this and Obi-Wan knew about the clone army being set up under the Jedi's noses and no one decided to investigate that possible connection until years into the Clone Wars. Arya's parents on Pretty Little Liars. They're villainized for not letting their high school daughter date her teacher? Yeah, that relationship was just. Like, why normalize that at all? I know why they attempted to normalize it. It was rhetorical and doesn't require an answer and was meant to display the disgust I have with the attempt. The bears from Goldilocks and the Tree Bears. She broke in, ate their food, broke some furniture, and slept in their beds. My 4Y.0 loves it when the bears eat her, at least in the one I tell him. He always says he thinks she is the bad person law. GLaDOS, she was absolutely right. You are a terrible person. We weren't even testing for that. Probably one of my favorite moments in my gaming history, when you meet her in 2 and that pure disdain and hatred in her voice. Oh, it's you! It's been a long time. How have you been? I've been really busy being dead. You know, after you murdered me? General Hummel from The Rock. I will not give that order. I will not repeat that order. I cannot give that order. What the hell is wrong with you, man? Such a great scene for both points there. The Hamburglar was just trying to save children from childhood obesity. If Mayor McCheese and Officer Big Mac are anthropomorphic burger folk, that means Hamburglar is carrying a bag of severed heads. Colonel Kurtz. We train young men to drop fire on people, but their commanders won't allow them to write fuck on their airplanes because it's obscene. Apocalypse Now is one of those movies where depending upon when you watch it and what version you watch, your view of it can change. Edit. While this blew up, I don't know which version offhand is best. If I recall correctly, the pacing of the original is much better and more enjoyable. The Redux is good, but the pacing isn't as great and I found it to be a darker watch in a way. I'd stick with the original and go from there. Definitely recommend giving Hearts of Darkness, a filmmaker's Apocalypse, a watch if you've seen Apocalypse Now a few times. The documentary on making it is pretty insane. The replicants from Blade Runner. Used as slaves and given artificially short lives. They just wanted to live and be free. I wasn't really terrified of it, but N was right in my opinion when we're talking Pokemon. Dude thought getting these creatures and making them fight till one is knocked out wasn't that amazing of an idea and it just made sense to kid me. That all said, I think Anne is a really interesting character that can be interpreted in many different ways. Of all the main leaders of these games, I think Anne had the best argument. It wasn't perfect though. I like Anne a lot for his character development. I agree with him at the end. Real Pokemon mistreatment should not be tolerated. But a Pokemon trainer simply using Pokemon in battles does not qualify as mistreatment as the Pokemon is happy. The Pokemon like the trainers, that is the best you should wish for there. All in all, I wish Pokemon had good stories and characters like this again tbh. Thank you for watching. In the comments below the video you can write which villain was scary, because they were right.